And then we get to my favourite part of the entire play, which is ridiculous given that it's got gods, but I just love the fact that you get this one brief little cameo in the play from Clytemnestra's ghost. The fact that we're making her, I believe, the only character to be in all three plays of this trilogy. And the fact that her vengeance, her hate for Orestes is so fierce that basically she manifests herself as an unresting spirit.
Yeah.
Right, because this was the whole thing. Because Agamemnon was murdered by her unjustly, there is this fear in Argos at the start of the second play that Agamemnon's spirit is, of course, restless in his tomb, and that's why she has the libation bearers go to try and satiate his angered spirit. And now we see Clytemnestra herself in that same position, where she is now this ghost of vengeance. And as always, her dialogue is absolutely fantastic. So I can't help but read a little bit of it. So the Furies are asleep after Orestes has already run away. And so Clytemnestra's ghost just emerges and says, "Wake up, wake up, wake up! You are forgetting me. You are neglecting my cause. The dead begin to remember the man I killed and they curse me. They drive me through the underworld, screaming after me. There she goes, the murderess of Agamemnon. That's her, the monster Clytemnestra. I stumble and run ashamed, contemptible to all the hordes of hell. They accuse me, charge me, try me, convict me, as if my son had never touched me. Wake up, get to work. Let the worlds know why you are hunting Orestes. Raise the cry. Look at this wound he made, here under my ribs, when the sword point came out at the back of my neck. That was my son's homecoming gift. Daylight makes a wall of the flesh, but sleep can see through the earth. Remember the midnights I conjured you, with libations and the burning of banquets. It was all a waste. He has leapt out of the trap, like a hare from a clump of grass, gone, laughing at you, while you snore and slumber on." And then I'll just skip forward a little bit to this, where the Furies begin to stir and they begin to awaken and go, "Oh yeah, wasn't there something we were supposed to be doing? Wasn't there someone we were supposed to be tormenting until his dying breath?" And Clytemnestra says, "You hunt in your sleep like dogs, but what about your duty? Can sleep overpower the Furies? Have you forgotten my pain? Strip his conscience naked with your whips of words dipped in acid. Deafen him with blasts of outrage and execration from your wombs. Paralyze the brain in his skull with despair. Hunt him into his grave." I tell you what, she is tenacious, isn't she? She will not stop, even from death.
She's even more vengeful than the Furies.
She is. She really is. Yeah, she's basically reminding them how to be Furies. I'm the real Fury. Get to work. Yeah. So that's it. She just gets that one little section. But as you can tell, I've read extent is fantastic.
But you could also see this in another respect, because myth is very imagistic, and it focuses a lot on creating images in our minds. But there's always a conceptual element we can encounter if we abstract from the person. So if we look at qualities and situations, what we can see here is essentially the Furies represent vengeance and the sentiment that I need to get revenge.
Yes.
And what we can see here as the spirit of Clytemnestra be, we can either see it as a spirit, or we can see it as a part of Orestes' conscience that is there to haunt him, even more than the Furies. The memory that he killed his mother.
Yes.
So we could sort of, what is interesting is that when we're interpreting texts and myths and plays, we can always abstract from the person and the scene, and we can always translate it in terms of qualities, and qualities as we see them in particular cases. So We could see the spirit of Clytemnestra as either a spirit that is there to haunt him, or we could see it as part of his conscience that is making him feel a sort of guilt that is always going to be there. And because he isn't fundamentally a bad person, it's going to haunt him even more than the Furies.
Yes. Yes. And what's more, regardless of which interpretation you choose, the point is that Orestes' mind is plagued by madness.
Yeah.
Right? This is one of the things that the Furies, one of the tools that they have in their arsenal, is to torment him in his mind ceaselessly. And so obviously, even towards the end, even if Orestes runs around the earth, this madness stays in his mind wherever he goes. And so it's the ultimate torment, perhaps in some ways actually a fate worse than death itself, to be alive, but to live a joyless existence where you're constantly plagued by this primordial wraith. That's kind of what they are, just these wraiths.
Yeah.
Then Orestes flees, and the Furies awaken. But before they flee and chased after Orestes, we actually have a confrontation between the Furies and Apollo himself. Yeah. And Apollo's great. Yeah. Apollo's such a Chad.
Yeah, in this one, he's really great.
Yeah. And it's a difficult one with Apollo, because on the one hand, right, it was also Apollo who cursed Cassandra.
Yeah.
Purely just because she didn't want to sleep with him. But obviously, you don't defy the gods. And one of the things that I find remarkable is that Orestes emerges with a happier existence for carrying out the will of Apollo.
Really small parenthesis.
No, please go on.
Mythology is really funny when it comes to relationships between gods and mortals, especially when they are of a lustful nature. And just one of my favorites, really short.
Go for it.
Is I think Zeus and Io, and maybe I'm mistaken about the name, but I think that they had an affair, because Zeus had lots of affairs. With the lasses, and at some point Hera was about to find her out, and Zeus didn't want just couldn't bother having the nagging at the point, and he transformed Io into a cow.
Even Zeus is weary of the nagging.
Yeah, and he transformed Io into a cow.
Right.
So Hera wouldn't find her yet.
Did he transform her back afterwards? Or?
I don't think so. No.
Oh my god! Greek mythology is so funny.
Yeah.
It really is. And by mythology, obviously, I understand it was all real. But yeah, it really is funny. So then we get to the part where Apollo is having this confrontation with the Furies. And one of the things that Apollo basically calls the Furies out for is they remind Apollo of the grievous crime, the sin that Orestes has committed in murdering his own mother. And Apollo simply says back, well, where were you when Clytemnestra killed Agamemnon? Where was your sense of vengeance then? Right? Where was your sense of vengeance? Why did I have to be the one to summon Orestes in order to avenge the death of his father? But you can see that in the mind of the Furies, so far as they have a mind, they care much more about the maternal side of things. And Apollo is a much more patriarchal figure.
Right. I don't think exactly that Apollo and Athena are way more patriarchal figures, and they're explicitly so. I think, yes, when you're talking about the maternal aspect, I think their argument was that Orestes shed his own blood, whereas Agamemnon wasn't the blood of Clytemnestra.
Yes.
So it's more an issue. It's not so much the issue of the mother, it's the issue of blood. That's what they were. And essentially this tells us that Aeschylus is talking about the law of blood and associates it with the old Titanic order.
And Apollo goes on to say, so breaking the holy contract of marriage, blessed and sealed by Zeus and Hera, breaking it in a violent passion with a murderous weapon is not sacrilege. Rolling the corpse of the bridegroom into the lap of the queen of heaven and earth, great Aphrodite, who blesses man with his greatest happiness, that is not sacrilege. The most sacred agreement, more sacred than any blind eruption of pain out of the earth, the most sacred agreement among men is the marriage contract, which binds two total strangers to love each other, to protect each other, and to blend their love in a third who loves both. But you recognize no contract with the Father, neither between his wife and him, nor between him and his son, whose blood he shares. The earth is like a mad elephant when the son murders his mother, but the same earth is deaf when father is murdered by mother, and deaf again when the son avenges his father. This may be the law of the earth, but it is not human justice. Only Athena, great goddess of wisdom, can judge this. She shall hear our call.
One thing to also remember is that Agamemnon also shed his blood. That's why also the Furies, in a way, are against Agamemnon's side. And the gods are in favor of Agamemnon's side and Orestes in this case.
Sorry, when you say Agamemnon shed his blood, you mean because he sacrificed his daughter?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So actually, he was right. It did make a difference.
From the perspective of a code of ethics that puts obedience to the gods higher than your family members, he's right. That's from that perspective.
Yes.
A charitable reading of Agamemnon would say that he had to obey the gods because, for instance, had he not obeyed the gods, the punishment would be even worse.
Yes.
And that's hence the tragedy. But essentially what happens is that we are presented with the clash of worldviews, according to which one is the law of blood and the cycle of revenge that is endless, and then the necessity to somehow end the cycle and give a greater emphasis on reconciliation, which means that at some point you have to let all the past take care of itself and reset the clock and
thus ending the curse on the house of Atreus.
Yes, so,
as one example
yes,
of where this type of society inevitably gets you. And so Orestes flees all the way to Athens. And one thing as well that I find particularly interesting when he's praying to Athena's statue is he mentions the fact that in his long journey of running to Athens, he says, 1,000 doorways have welcomed me. And so actually, you see there something of Apollo's magic, because in Orestes being somewhat cleansed, it means that he's not just an omen of evil wherever he goes, right? He goes, and it's not like the curse, the taint of his sin is spilling out into other people as well, and ruining the lives of the people around him. And so he prays for Athena to come, and obviously the Furies are right there behind him again, and so they're both locked in this moment. And really, this, by rights, without Athena's intervention, this is the end for Orestes. This is where he will die, and the Furies will finally take their vengeance on him. And so Athena arrives in all of her glory and her infinite wisdom. And one of the things as well that I find remarkable is that there's this moment where she looks at Orestes, who is obviously a very noble, princely looking man, and she looks at the absolute hellish state of the Furies, And then you see there's this immediate impression with Athena of revulsion and like, aren't they hideous? But then her
Brother ear.
yeah, but then her reason takes over, and she says, "No, I will judge their arguments. Right, I will judge them by their words and their intent and what they actually wish to say." But you get that one moment where even Athena's just absolutely reviled by the sight of these women, these female wraiths, and so you eventually have them almost what amounts to a courtroom drama.
Yeah,
right. That's what the final act of this trilogy.
But also, in a sense, the creation of the court.
Yes.
Because Athena founds the Areopagus, which was the court of Athens.
And that was a hill, right? A hill out in Athens that I mean to go to one day.
I've been there.
Well, I thought you might have been.
If you enjoyed this piece of premium content from the Lotus Eaters, head to our website where you can find more.